Hi, this is Michael. Welcome to Leadership from the Inside Out, the Leadership Foundation. Based on a lifelong interest in leadership and aspiration myself to be a great leader, I realized the value of the work I put into myself by the outcomes it had with others. To be a great leader, I learned, would require that I focus on making my followers successful, which would in turn define my success. It was much more than taking a few leadership courses in order to call myself a leader. It would require that I take that hard look in the mirror and ask myself, what was my motivation? And was I ready to accept the responsibility and accountability that this role requires? Many of the challenges we face today are a result of our leadership or lack thereof. A powerful premise of leadership is that what we see in our departments, companies, municipalities, countries is a reflection of our leadership. Leaders set the tone for what is important. Is it our people, or has it given way to the temptations of power or greed? We are facing many new challenges today that need leaders that are willing to focus on the greater good versus themselves. At the end of the day, it is all about people. Great leadership is about teaching our employees to walk up mountains, not off cliffs. The purpose of this module is to prepare you for our upcoming workshop, which is about learning how to lead from the inside out and developing your leadership foundation. I was able to use self more effectively to motivate and inspire others, develop their own potential, thereby accomplishing amazing results for our team and company. It truly is a win-win-win. By growing our employees, this helps make them more successful, more productive, and therefore the team more successful, making a positive impact on the company's own results. The irony was that by focusing on my employees' potential and team results, I was recognized as an effective leader, growing my own career and success. It was the elements listed here that were the characteristics of great leaders. These leaders had a solid foundation, represented by strong self-awareness, beliefs, and an amazing purpose which was their own. This had a natural ability to inspire and motivate others. Why? Because this is who they wanted to be, and they had built a strong foundation within themselves to keep them focused and on track, just like a great tree has a strong set of roots. Otherwise, we increase the likelihood that we are tempted by power, ego, and greed. Traditional leadership development focuses on developing a specific competency, such as better listening skills, ability to coach others, giving and receive feedback, etc. These can be effective, but only if you're motivated to learn and then apply what you learned. Too often it was evident that attending leadership development courses were simply a part of somebody's development plan or certification, really which was their goal, not really applying what was learned. This, however, is a course for those that are drawn to being a great leader. Whether it is to turn around and grow a company, be a great role model amongst the rank and file, lead a movement, or simply just to be your best at what you do. The course is about reshaping what really drives our behaviors, changes in our attitude and beliefs. This is what brings about lasting change. It is about pursuing leadership as a calling versus a promotion or way to get ahead. It is about developing your foundation so strong because it is yours and what you want to do, that it delivers and drives what you want to do and how you do it. This course is about a choice you make to grow, reaching towards becoming and being your full potential. We recognize that in order to grow, it won't be easy. We are going to challenge ourselves to open our minds and be out of our comfort zone as we learn new ideas, new principles, new concepts, and decide which of these we're going to apply to our lives, our leadership style. It is about focusing more on intrinsic motivation, motivation that comes from within, than it is extrinsic motivation, such as rewards, recognition, promotions, or pay increases. It is about the quote here from George Bernard Shaw, and realizing that you feel excitement when you read this and share a similar aspiration. It is about resisting the temptations that come along with power so that you retain focus on what is most important to you. This is what the Foundation for Authentic Leadership is all about. It is a testimony to the amazing leaders before us who dared to be different, focusing more on their people, their organization, church, community, country, humanity versus themselves. Ralph Steyer is one of my favorite role models. His story was featured years ago in the Leadership Alliance video by Tom Peters. He got it, and then figured out a way to put his employees on top of the pyramid, grow them, and develop them as the real leaders. It was no surprise that his company, Johnsonville Sausage, became the employer of choice, even though it meant working in frigid temperatures, because it was all about the people, not the leaders. My own purpose centers around helping people to wake up every day with meaning, purpose, love, and joy. Leaders play such a critical role with respect to growing their employees and in a way that helps their company and organization thrive. My interest is also with individuals who are interested in discovering their own potential by overcoming traumatic pasts, or interested in finding their own way, answering deep and profound questions they have, or simply to find greater levels of contentment and peace in their lives. This is the focus of my book, Discovering Michael, an inspirational guide to personal growth and self-discovery. I begin my personal growth talks and workshops with the diagram I developed and shown here, based on years of research, understanding, and applying personal growth and self-discovery techniques myself. Using a tree as an analogy to our life, hence the tree of life, our ability to achieve our full potential comes from nurturing ourselves from the very seed from which we came from, and developing that seed into a flourishing, resilient, strong, and beautiful tree or person, no matter where our seed was planted or the storms the seed had to weather. Even as a human being, we need to develop our foundation, which is made up of our physical, mental, emotional self. And with the foundation in place, we can focus on becoming our full potential as a human being. This workshop borders between personal growth and self-discovery, since you are learning how to be more of your full potential and discovering your beliefs, values, and purpose. We will begin with the personal growth element of the Leadership Foundation in the workshop. For those aspiring to go further, typically this is referred to as a desire to understand the meaning of life and how they fit into it. There's an ultimate quest for growth, which I refer to the stage of enlightenment. This is not the focus of this workshop, but may be a reason for some of you wanting to be here, consciously or unconsciously. Take a moment and read this, reflect on it, and then in your workbook, write down your responses to the questions. Ah yes, one of my favorites, Stephen Covey. This workshop provides you with an opportunity to develop your self-awareness, which is fundamental to be an effective leader. We become more effective by becoming more aware of who we are, our tendencies, motivations, etc. For most of us, we operate on automatic, allowing our past, our issues, unhealthy beliefs, perceptions, biases, and prejudices to drive our behavior and consequences. We learn that there is always a space between cause and effect, which is choice. With self-awareness, we learn to operate in that space where we take that moment to make the choice we want to make. In my book, Discovering Michael, I share my own story as a means to relate to the trauma I experienced and to the unhealthy beliefs and issues I walked into during my adult life, and the negative patterns and consequences I experienced as a result. The key for me was making this connection and then learning how to be aware of these triggers along with my behaviors in order to create better choices, consequences, and therefore behaviors. Learning how to master yourself indeed brings with it an amazing power. Power, as Gary Zukov calls in his book, Seed of the Soul, authentic power. The 3 bullets listed here characterized what self-awareness is. We learn how to stop and use our feelings as a means of assessing what is really going on within us, and with this awareness, to stop and reflect before reacting. An example of this for me was experiencing the feeling of fear in my gut when in situations I was confronted or challenged. Fear in my case was a reaction I developed to protect myself from situations that were about to be abusive or traumatic for me as a child. The fear in these cases, as I learned later on in life, was based on a belief that I was unworthy and that I would be punished. I had connected conflict with feelings of being unworthy, which continued to play out in my life as an adult. Therefore, I avoided conflict at any cost, and when I did, I expected the worst. Understanding this connection, I began to notice my gut reactions and remind myself that this was likely a conditioned response from my past and not appropriate for the situations I was experiencing now. Hence, becoming more comfortable with conflict and responding more appropriately. The next 2 slides will feature videos on the topic of self-awareness. The first is on the importance of self-awareness with leaders, and the second offers 5 ways to grow your self-awareness. Pause the video at this point and then watch these 2 video clips on YouTube. Once Ben Franklin was a great person and leader. According to historical records, he was described as follows. He was brilliant, amusing, clever, and ever entertaining. He cultivated allies, avoided making enemies, and kept his cards close to his chest. He was truly wise and insightful. He saw the bottom line of issues sooner than others because he was unhindered by their convictions. He developed what he referred to as his 13 virtues, as shown here. We all may claim certain values or virtues, but what Ben Franklin strived was to live them every day. Shown here are his virtues, along with how he reflected on these each and every day, identifying those virtues he applied, and this helped him to keep these virtues front and center in his life. The second activity listed to grow our self-awareness is keeping a journal. I recommend this in my book as well, as a powerful tool for dealing with issues and challenges as they occur, to document your thoughts openly and candidly on paper, as well as to reflect and learn from these events. Shown here is a journal that is marketed today based on Ben Franklin's 13 virtues. A journal does not need to be a formal diary and can simply be a pad of paper. What is important is that from your period of reflection, you identify accomplishments and challenges and learn from each of these. This step helps to maintain your accountability to what you said you would do. In your workbook, I wrote several pages on a framework I believe that is powerful with respect to your personal growth and self-discovery. This is referred to as the Johari window. I refer to this now since one of the primary methods to learn about your blind spots is to solicit honest and candid feedback from others that you work with. This is not always an easy task since people have various comfort levels with expressing their honesty at work, as well as with a colleague or boss. However, if set up properly and with honest intentions, feedback allows you to see yourself through the eyes of others so that you can grow your awareness with respect to what others are seeing, as well as the effect our behaviors are having. Leadership models were mentioned as a means to grow self-awareness, since they provide a framework which helps to give the structure to an idea, along with examples on how to apply the learning. The foundation for leadership is such a model or framework. Let's look at a couple of other popular models used to develop leaders today. One of my favorite and very applicable to what we will be learning is emotional intelligence. If you notice on the top left, the first cornerstone of emotional intelligence, once again, is self-awareness. Unconscious bias is another framework or model that helps us to focus on developing our self-awareness to help us catch our automatic reactions, in which case we demonstrate a behavior or response that is perceived by others as a potential bias, prejudice, discrimination. These are often formed within us, often deep in our subconscious, based on our past and the beliefs we had formed early on. This topic emerges as a part now of the diversity and inclusion workshops, which means that we have to confront our own personal biases and prejudices, once again utilizing self-awareness, and then learn how to set these aside to deal more effectively with others. Let's look at an example of how one can develop and apply their self-awareness. You'll be asked to do this yourselves in a moment. Imagine Ben Franklin pull out his 13 virtues checklist and journal in his office where he reflected back on the day, reflecting upon whether he applied any of these virtues, along with an assessment of how well he applied them. Along with this may be learnings and or actions that he would note in his journal. Earlier that day, Ben met with Thomas Jefferson and others pertaining to reviewing a draft of the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson expressed some strong views. Ben disagreed with these ideas and expressed his stern frustration with Mr. Jefferson. Upon reflection that evening, Ben questioned his rationale for near losing his temper. What was he really upset at? Was it that Thomas never asked Ben for his ideas or thoughts? Or was it because both had strong personalities and had a tendency to become a sparring match? Ben realized that although Mr. Jefferson felt strongly about his concerns and did not appear interested in Ben's ideas at that time, that Ben really owned his own reaction and could have handled it better. He made a note to see Thomas Jefferson the next day and apologized for expressing his frustration, for he knew that doing this would help to maintain his collegial connection with Mr. Jefferson, but also it would help him live up to his own virtues. Okay, now it's your turn. Open up your workbook to this page, where you will reflect upon and address these questions noted here. It is best to conduct this activity where you are free from distractions. Your goal is to be honest and candid with yourself as possible. This may be difficult for those who have not had much practice with these types of activities. Know and pay particular attention to your tendencies and reactions to this activity, along with making your notes about this. Remember, our goal is to develop employees by making them aware of their behaviors and consequences. If we want to do this effectively, we have to be able to role model this behavior to ourselves. The more you practice this, the greater your self-awareness becomes. The greater your self-awareness is, the more effective you are as a leader with yourself and with others. The more effective you are, the more productive and engaged others become. As you prepare for this workshop, these are the behaviors that will support you maximizing your learning and overall experience. My role as a facilitator is to inspire and guide you with the knowledge, skills, and activities to help you develop your leadership foundation. The reward can be significant for those making this journey, for you now operate with a greater inspiration, passion, and self-awareness gained through your personal growth, understanding of your core beliefs, values, virtues that become your operating manual, along with a sense of meaning and purpose that will both challenge you and others to become their full potential. You become an amazing leader that now in turn inspires and guides others to be more self-aware and strive for their full potential. It is truly a win-win-win. You will choose how far you want to go with yourself. I will just provide the setting to challenge you. This concludes our module. I conclude here with a great quote relating to the experience of a leader getting it and their analogy for what it meant to them. I hope that each of you experience your own light bulb of this nature for yourself. See you soon.